Hi everyone and welcome back to my studio. I'm going to do some backlit tulips and daffodils today. I have two beautiful jars of flowers and unfortunately all tulips already opened. And today I'm trying to focus on silhouette of those flowers. So I'm going to just block in very roughly transparent red oxide, and I had viridian before, but I think this is another green. I forgot what the name of that green, but it doesn't really matter because I'm mixing it with brown. And so that's my first. So I'm using bristle brush here. So I'm doing very thinly, but I think I may do a little bit thicker, so maybe for some greens and browns I don't have to paint over again. So I'm squinting. And where I need a little lighter, I'm just adding a little bit of yellow ochre. Don't want to go very dark. So far it's just spots of color I'm trying to do. I probably will have to have impressionist look again, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm adding a little bit of lighter cadmium yellow light in here and in here as well in front. And then I'm doing flowers. I'm not painting even jars themselves because this will be just contours. So I'm doing some yellow, cadmium yellow light we'll be doing in terra rosa in areas where, and some yellow green maybe in some areas where the flowers at the back have some yellow daffodils and some yellow, some white daffodils and some purple tulips. So I'm just kind of roughly putting the spots of color, maybe adding a tiny bit of white to that yellow, but not too much. So the white ones even look more like yellow ones because they're slightly old. So I'm doing a little bit of white, and I actually had a little bit of some kind of gray left in my, and then I'm using again this combination of yellow I had. Hopefully I can do this painting without interruptions. Can hear my puppy squealing upstairs without me, but hopefully it doesn't interfere with the painting, but we'll see. So there is some yellow here, there is some nice white here, and it's okay that I got over the greens. Make it a little bit more brown in here, because normally when it's backlit or side lit like this, especially like backlit, it's what I was going to say, it's kind of losing its color. So I'm mixing some transparent oxide red and some ultramarine and white. This is just all busy for my jars. Just do a little bit of, at least indicate where they are. So one jar is very short. And looks a little bit dark, but actually when I squint it is dark in comparison to the window behind and other colors. So now I'm doing tulips. So I'm using magenta and ultramarine and just tiny bit of terra rosa to warm it up a little. So one tulip is going to be here. It's kind of bent already. Very interesting shape. So one tulip is actually here already, and I keep moving. And I can paint it over. And there is another tulip here at the back, and then there is another one here. So this is the darkest, like a middle valley, I would say, for these tulips. And there is some light coming from that side. And like I always do, I would change the brush later. It's just on linen. It's very convenient to paint with this kind of brush. So that's my base for daffodils, for flowers, and for... I'm just going to lighten it a little for flowers, for leaves. So I'll kind of roughen it in a little. Now I'll do a little bit more of greens. It's like I'm not going to go into detail of all the greens. I'll do it later. Just the major ones. There's some tulip leaves at the back. There's some more tulip leaves here, and actually I'm going to make it a little light, as the tulip leaves are cool. I have cool light. I forgot to tell that I have cool light. And the task for this exercise is really silhouette, working on silhouette and working on some lights and colors that backlit light gives. So very, very subtle changes. And again, doing just very, very approximate contours and silhouettes at this point. Actually, there is more light in these ones because this light is transparent going through the jars. I did it a little bit blue now, but I think it's going to be more brown. Just want to see what the effect will be. Like I said, smaller brush will be easier, but I'm trying to hold myself from using it at this point. So, and I think I'll start doing background. That's going to be interesting because it has kind of combination of green, blue, very light background here. And in some places it's really, really light. So I'm going to thin a little bit. So I'm using mixture of blue, green, brown and white. And it should work for this daffodil. And then I have more brown. Again, I'm going to use white with it. Maybe not as brown, but kind of that kind of color. I'm going to use lots of white on this one. It's very warm color here. You can see lots of warmth. That's my window. Again, I'm not going into detail of that window. Just only I'll decide how much detail I want to do later. At this point I only need it's kind of brown by the wall as well. Lots of warmth here, and it's cool on that side closer to the window. Only going through silhouette. So as you can see, the bristle brush is good at kind of smudging it in, because I don't need thick layer. And now I'm using a little bit of brown and yellow ochre. So it's a tabletop. I may lighten this color a little with white, but for now I think it's maybe too brown, so I'll make it a little lighter. It doesn't matter which color it is, because it's not the same color. It's kind of brown blue because there is light from the window as well. So there is light at the back. Actually at the back it's more brown. Okay, so these are my spots of colors done, and now I may start going to adding in the bigger shapes, a little bit smaller shapes. So I'm going to use this softer brush that I repaired. I glued it because it came off its ferrule. Doesn't happen very often, but you never know. So I'm going to use a little bit of terra rosa and cadmium yellow light, and also this green yellow color that I was showing you before. It's very good for warmth on daffodils. So first I'm going through my yellow flowers here. Only what I see there. It doesn't have to be, and I will paint all the light that I see transparent that goes through them later. So now I'm going to use some lighter ones as well. So I see some light going through there. Some light over there. I have to paint my greens again. There's one. There's this yellow. Where it meets light is also lit up a little better. So now I'm going to go through these flowers that closest to me, and it has lots of depth in it, in the actual middle of the flower. So I want to paint that quickly, and then I'm going into whiter flowers. So I'm adding a touch of blue to the white. And you see where I painted before yellow, I'm painting white now. There's a little bit white here, a little bit here, and then there is this one. Maybe it's too blue, so I'm going to intensify my yellow, oh sorry, my white, because this is the closest flower, so I can do also a little bit more paint on my brush, just to kind of emphasize this is the flower I see the best. Adding touch of green gray, because that's how I see the shadows in there. So just kind of playing with the color and see what works and what doesn't work. I guess it's an interesting game. It's better when you don't hear your dog screaming. Hopefully it's not heard that much. So there is one nice daffodil that I like, and it's kind of going a little bit further down here. It's a bud, so because it will open so fast, and it's a white one, but it's a very warm one. I'm going to paint it now before it opens, because I know that happened to me in the past. So I'm working with all the colors I have on the palette. Unfortunately today I'm not showing palette, but it's really the same colors, greens and browns. It's hard to tell what exactly, because it's all kind of going depending on the what I see. So I see a little bit of white here, and I just paint it over and leave it. Really don't want to go through each flower, because that's not the idea in impressionist painting. What I'm trying to do. So there is transparent white petal here and some green, it's kind of greenish petal here and a little bit here. So the one that was blue, it's more like a white one. And I just noticed one little thing on here that I shouldn't really spoil. Yeah, I think I did not quite the right thing. I should have kept the warmth of this. Okay, so I'll keep moving around flowers, and then some greens I will do later as well. So petal there, petal there. Now I will be using my bristle brush when I need to adjust contours, or like when I see that the background need to be painted over it while it's wet, and especially the one that as the background should have very soft edges. So I kind of move my brush into it lightly and just leave it. So it happens also, it looks like it's almost kind of melting in the background, if you know what I mean. And I'm adding, this brush is dirty now, I'm adding a little bit of blue to my white, make some new fresh color, just so. And again I'm using this yellow green for warmth, because I see lots of warmth here in those petals. So once I painted flowers, just while I'm there, and again it goes well wet on wet, I'm going to paint stems. There is stem going there, only the ones that I see, not all of them I see that well, so I want to just kind of, and they're a little darker at the base of the flower. There's another stem going there. Again, this yellow-green helps a lot to kind of... Sometimes I even forget I leave white spots, so I try to make sure that I don't leave. So working on this nice yellow white. I want that white and yellow at the same time, because before they open they're a little bit warmer. Once they open, the petals start losing their freshness and they're becoming kind of all kinds of colors. So I think terra rosa works well for any terra rosa, and then cadmium yellow deep, they work really well for warmth in the petals. And then at the same time, if I notice something that is different from what I saw before, I sometimes correct it straight away. For example, on this flower. So I think that's this part of the painting. It's very beautiful flowers, so there is so much in them, and it's a very interesting decision you have to make, what you paint, what you don't paint. That's the interesting thing about art. I think that one darker was better. So I have this purple tulip. Not sure if I should go into purples. I probably will go into purples. Maybe, I don't know even, yeah, I think I'll do purples now. So I'm getting some magenta and white, so it's a very nice rich color, and just go through the ones that I see in the light here on this tulip, because this one is one of the tulips that really in the dark, and it's actually blocked completely there, so don't want to paint any detail on this tulip, especially light details, and the leaf goes through it. Now I need to go back into yellows quickly, because this part is more of the yellow daffodils coming through. And again, because the color is so hidden, it really doesn't matter if I paint over purple or not. So there is one problem with tulips, they change so fast. So I just added a little bit of alizarin in here, just to see. That's another thing with backlit flower. The ones that backlit, some of them side lit, some of them backlit, you don't have much of the color. So you really paint just any kind of dark color. So now I have to move my background a little tiny bit down. The good thing it's brown, so I'm going to mix a little bit more brown in it. Just move it tiny bit down. Actually, I need more white in it, a little lighter. because I think I painted that flower and it moved. So cleaning my brush, taking a new towel for wiping my brush and making this background a little bit lighter. Yeah, I think it's better this way. I can always work on background more. So the main thing is to do tulips. So this is another tulip that needs to move down a little. And again, this is behind, so the only tulip that in front is the one that further down. And they keep opening so fast, I just can't believe it, how fast they're opening. So now I will try to do the lightest lights of these tulips with this magenta and white. So I think it's this one, the one here, and there will be leaf against this one. Then there is this petal slightly going down. And where I need, I correct it with the darker value color. And I'm using, now for darker one, actually using alizarin and ultramarine, if I have any ultramarine left. I think I have to squeeze more ultramarine and tiny bit of, even I added transparent oxide red now to make it darker. Kind of have to control how much white I put on it, because if I put too much white I may lose all the color. And I will work on the petals more and decide which edges will be softer, which edges will be. So this tulip went really, which will be sharper. This tulip really went all over, opened very much. So I have to kind of, so there is have to count petals, this one, and then there is one more here, kind of going into this petal, and then the other tulip at the back. So I think I will keep it like this for now, even though with tulips I don't think I should take my chances, because it's going to change again. So just quickly go through the background and make sure the silhouette is done correctly. So I'm going to get more ultramarine. So the very good shadow color for purple flowers, it's alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue, or permanent magenta and alizarin and ultramarine. And then for warmth you can add either transparent red oxide or terra rosa, just depending how dark or light your colors. So right now I'm using alizarin, magenta maybe a little bit of brown. Not sure how dark I will go. Just I need to go through some dark accents on these tulips. I'll paint green over it again. I just think that's the only way for me right now to get more depth in these tulips. Now I'm using actually alizarin and white and touch of magenta. So going through my tulips again. Sometimes it takes time to get to the right value or the right color you want. I think I'm adding a little bit of actually terra rosa because I just noticed that there is so much warmth in this particular petal, so I'm kind of changing it. Terra rosa might be a better option, maybe even cadmium red light. Trying to see, don't want to make it very bright and saturated, but you may get some nice variation. I think here as well. So I see, actually I do see red, and it's really nice red. Yeah, once I added this warmth, I can see like a very nice warmth. I can see how the tulips started speaking to me. Yeah, just a little bit. Because I think combination of warm and cool, that, as lots of artists say, that combination really makes the difference. So now I'm going to go over this again. Not to lose that warmth either. This one is almost like melting in the background to this petal, so this edge of this petal and this petal. So I think I'm going to leave this tulip soon. I spent too much time already on it. And really I should move on, otherwise I'll get stuck in the details, and I don't think that was the purpose of this painting, to be stuck in the details. It just sometimes you're trying to make sure you like it, but sometimes it takes time to get to that point, especially with changing flowers. Maybe I should cut some of it. Anyway, I will move on right now. I'm not sure if my photograph will correspond to what I'm painting at this moment, because the flowers, especially tulips, open very fast, like really fast. Okay, that edge is sharper. I guess it's not that important to go through each particular flower when it changes, so I think I will go back to greens where I was changing them, where I was painting over this one, that where the leaves go through the tulip. Yeah, so it's very dark and I can hardly see it. What I could do, I could paint the top of this petal still here, just to move it a little, to show how it melts into the background. Then you know tulip there. And now I'm going back to, like, the background here, slightly greener. And there is some greener stems. So now I can go through some stems. Not all of them, but the one that important, or the one that would add some character to the painting. So my terra rosa will work well as well with green, because that's what the stem of some of the tulips is. It's terra rosa, and green will go well with those, so not putting all of them. And then I'm using some green and some yellow to go the end of the stem. So I need to paint one more tulip, and that tulip is going to be, it's changed again, but I will try to be as fast as I can with at least capturing the shape of this tulip. So this is the front tulip and goes the same direction as this. So it's over here, and there is one petal here, one already there, and one there. And then I can see just a little the actual middle of that tulip. I'm not sure what color it is, but I think I'm putting kind of green yellow a little. I think the middle is lighter. And then the same as the other tulips, I'm going to use magenta and white just for some of the petals. Not as long, this petal. I'm trying to add some depth, the same as with the other tulips, trying to add some red depth to it. So this tulip is a little bit more defined. And because it's backlit, you don't see much on it, only where the light falls slightly. And I'll paint around it with green and brown where the leaves are going. Actually, the leaves for tulips are very light, so I'm going to try to paint some of those in there without losing my, so they're kind of green color, some of them. So I'm going to show that color here. And because in the vase they still have that warmth, So I still have to put the darker values that I got originally inside there. So my jar will go a little bit further down. Okay, maybe I'll just indicate more of the glass right now, where it's going to be. So the first one is kind of... Now I have another interesting thing, sun started appearing. I think my highlight is going to be there and the actual jar is there. There is a very distinct light area there. I'm going to use a touch of blue in my white. Of course, I'll do bigger highlights and more lights later. Right now I need just to see the contours, and so it's normally darker at the bottom. Both jars are darker at the bottom. Sometimes soft brush is not as good on bigger surfaces. It's only where you need just a light touch. So my jar is going to be, I'm trying to squint and see, it has some of that brown in it, even at the bottom here. It has a little bit of that, but it's really packed with leaves. So I'm going to indicate those branches, but I shouldn't overdo because it's a backlit one. I shouldn't overdo on light in the jar, only where I see it's the closest to the window. And the other thing, I can always add more light. Like here I can see even like kind of yellow. That's the very turn of the jar. At the same time there is lots of green there. Oh, that's very green. So I'll just do a little bit of like a indication of water here, and then have to move some back of the darkness in the jar. Yeah, more dark to this side actually. I really see lots of light stems, like really light. So I'm adding some of that light green in here. And the same thing in my second jar. I see light edge here coming. And of course I can do corrections on the jars and table, cast shadows and everything else later. The main thing is flowers, really. So there is more light in the second jar, so I'm trying to use cadmium, yellow deep and white, because this light goes through this jar on this side and goes at the bottom as well, but it's always a little darker than the surface where the jar is standing or reflecting those areas. So there is more light here that was from the tulips that I lost, so I'm going to add more stems and using terra rosa again and some green, because I think some of that warmth got lost. I'm going to take some white and touch of blue and do a better highlight maybe in this jar. The same thing I'll do in this jar, just it's not as big this highlight, but just kind of shouldn't have done that, should have correct. Sometimes it just one stroke changes everything, but at the same time it's good to experiment and see what effect it will do. So light stems still look better, but it's worth trying. So it's kind of very subtle greenery there, not very bright, but I want to add a tiny bit of yellow in some of them. And a little bit of darkness here that I lost. So I think that's kind of I roughened my main block in, and then I may go through the details of each individual tulip and have a look again where I can improve, where I can change things. I may go with a smaller brush even for some of them, not all of them, but some of them. So, and then the main thing, I will go through the light spots that I have in there. For example, if I see some background like in between flowers, I'll do that. I'm not sure yet how light it is because it's a overcast day. I don't have too much of the light there, but there is some light. So I'm trying to squint and see. So there is some light there. There's some light there. And then there is some light in between this tulip and stem. So I'll go through some stems, I'll go through some leaves just to see if I need to change things a little bit better. Maybe I will add a stronger highlights where I need to, like on the jar. Some highlights and some light that passing through the jars as well. Some of it might be a little lighter. So things like this. And I'll double check my, now I squint and double check my values as well. Maybe I may have to correct some of those. So I don't want to make this video very long. Then the matter of detail will be how much you want to add up to every individual. Like in my case, I probably will not add too much detail. I more work on the bigger shapes and go through all over again and decide which shapes need correction, which shapes need a second eye. The main thing is tulips, and tulips I think open to the full. So I forgot to put cast shadow here, just a little bit more of cast shadow here. So it goes in that direction, so it's a mixture of blue and brown. It's not very, very strong. Not very strong, but still it's there. So the main things for cast shadows for the objects, they kind of ground them, and at the same time they have some solid base, not floating in the air. So the other thing I'm going to look at which light I can see passing at the back. What's the comparison between the values? What is lighter? I think this, my background is a little darker, so I just try to squint and see. Not everywhere, but at the bottom my background seems to be darker, so probably will work with this puzzle a little bit more. And I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I will pause the final painting when I finish it. I don't think it's the final one, because I may correct also some of the shapes of the jars. Like I run out of, still thinking blue might be a really nice touch here, tiny bit of blue, because the background is warm. There's lots of warmth in that background. Just trying to see. So I need to put a, maybe I will wait until the paint sets in as well, because normally in the jar you have the very darker edge, but then you have a lights passing through, so that's what I'm trying to catch here. I think I lost my highlight here. Where it was. So anyway, I work more on certain things to bring them to better finish, but that gave you an idea how I work on this type of paintings. And the same as you, I'm learning still lots of things every time I paint. Like my main interest now, I'm trying to learn edges, colors, values. Like still not quite happy with my tulip, so especially the front one, I think I could add more depth. To this tulip, so I may work on it a little more. Without compromising what I already done. Yeah, I can see this petal can add a little bit of depth, and probably when paint settles it will be easier for me to add just some final touches like this, so it will not be as difficult when paint is not set. So you have just to do very, very soft touches and try to put more paint on the tulips. So that's what I'm trying to do. Just to anyway, I hope you can do something like this as well if you have flowers in the garden, depending where you live, of course. Or I'm seeing here as well, just tiny bit of touch here. So it requires lots of squinting for sure, all this, so you could see it better. Definitely lots of squinting and experimenting. Like for example, this tulip, I noticed that a lighter touch like this and flick your brush is much better than and makes more picturesque as well. Sometimes fingers help as well with the smudging the paint. So I'll keep working on it. I think there is still potential to change the tulips. And I say there is still potential, means I'm not happy with them right now, but I will keep changing them. So I hope to see you again on my channel, and I wish everyone happy painting. Thank you for watching. Bye.